All right, we're back and we want to get into our discussion this morning, taking a look at some of the big stories of the week. And what a week it has been. Just a couple of days, actually 2 days ago or so, the Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu Hassan was in the country. She ended that visit to Kenya on a high, lots of memorable moments, and we'll be talking about that and hearing what some of the memorable moments were from my guests who are here with us in studio. But also, we know a lot of activity in Parliament yesterday, lawmakers giving the BBI bill a clean bill of health, so to speak, with an overwhelming vote in support of the First Amendment. I'll also be hearing from my guests on the same as well. But I want to hear from you on both that state visit. What was your takeaway from that? But in addition, Parliament yesterday, we haven't seen them gather as many as they did yesterday. I'm not sure about whether they followed COVID-19 protocols, but also they stayed quite late discussing that. And some Kenyans said they should have stayed up late discussing other matters. We'll hear from you on that. 22422 is the SMS line, and the hashtag is Daybreak. Here in studio, Lydia Madhia, who's an advisor, Ministry of Public Service, here with us. Thanks for finding time for us. And also in studio, we have Moses Kilonzo, the chair of the Persons with Disabilities Lower Eastern Region. Joining us virtually shortly will be Nerima Wako, who is the executive director of Siasa Place. But Lydia, let me start with you, and thanks for joining us this morning. Your most memorable moments from Suluhu's visit. I know a lot happened, but what do you think?
I think for me, the most memorable thing was her speech in Parliament. It had the right quantities of everything: charm, humor, substance, poetry. If you, in fact, you try to translate her speech into English, you realize it's really, really well written. And the way she delivered it, very, well paced, very sort of authentic, conversational. I think for me, that speech will stick with me for a long time.
What does it have, what does it do for you and maybe for women across the country, across the region, to have a lady like her leading Tanzania? Bearing in mind, I know we have some would say a ceremonial president in Ethiopia, but nevertheless, what sort of inspiration does she provide for women in the region, and what sort of lessons does she provide as well, as you observed her two-day state visit?
I mean, if you think about the importance of representation, that when you see yourself somewhere, then you're like, oh, I could also be that or do that. When boys see you here, they're like, I think I want to be like Wahiga. I like how he looks, I like how he talks, what he does. And so it's that sense of representation that we have a local East African example of a woman president. And so young girls can feel that their dreams are really valid, because now here is a real life person who is president. And I think what you draw from her history is that consistency in the party. She's been very loyal. She's served in very many capacities, quietly behind the scenes. I think one of the important things to remember is that when Magufuli was grounding himself in Tanzania, it is Suluhu who was going around doing diplomatic outreach and all those kinds of things. So you see that that consistency is rewarding, and that if you really stick to a cause and you decide that this is my line of work or my line of service, it will pan out. But there's one little, I think, thing I've seen people talk about, her demeanor. That poise, that calm, soft energy that is completely contradictory to what Magufuli was. And it's very stereotypical Wahiga, because women who have a different energy, assertive, are deemed aggressive and are not very likable. And you can see the reception that she's received is very positive, because she conveys those stereotypical feminine traits that people feel comfortable with. And so I think there we have to then study and see, is it better then for women? Is it easier to rise to that level when that is the kind of sort of like disposition that you showcase? Because you've seen, for instance, reception of people like Hillary, who are a lot more, sort of different energy. Then the reception is very vile, and people don't like her. She screeches, she talks too much, or this and that. So I think we have to really see that there is still that stereotyping of women and female leadership. That
you've raised a very interesting point, and Moses, I'm coming to you shortly to get your views on that state visit. But for you then, and there are those online who felt this week that it's still not enough, that East Africa, we are still not doing well. access to education, access to leadership, still a challenge across the region. Even for a woman to get to the ballot as a presidential candidate in this country. I mean, when you look at the number of times the papers have profiled potential candidates for 2022, you rarely see a woman. So are we doing well, or in your view, you know, the Tanzanian people just got lucky, you know? How would you term it?
They are very lucky that they had a woman right there, because if she wasn't right there, it would have been another man. And I think you remember just when Magufuli's situation was a bit, people are not very sure, there was talk of people trying to just and push her to the side. You know, she was just perfectly positioned for nobody, you know, nobody could be able to really change the trend or the course of history, and she really had to occupy that position. But if she hadn't been that strategically placed, I don't think we would have seen a female president in East Africa. So we have a long, long way to go. And Mahiga, like you're saying, even if you look at the newspapers today, you see Daily Nation here, has profiled an avalanche of men about...
you call it an avalanche of men.
and there's only one woman, as if the conversation yesterday was exclusively, you know, done by men. We have a long way to go. But I think the media also has been a bit insensitive
I was waiting for you to get to that.
For me to come at you. I think you guys need to help us so that women get as much coverage. We're not even saying we want more coverage, as much coverage as men for the efforts that they make. A man will walk on the streets and say a random thing and there'll be headline news. A woman will be doing Kikotek, you know, in you know, Kitui, and hardly get a mention, right? So I think the media needs to be a little bit more attuned to frontline and position some of these prominent women leaders so that we can see more of them, and that way we'll begin to normalize their leadership and their, you know, their legitimacy in the leadership space.
I'm sure Moses Kilonzo also will have a thing or two to say about what better work the media can do, especially to profile, you know, sort of, and give publicity to marginalized communities. Moses, thanks for finding time to join us this morning. And let me get your thoughts straight off that state visit by President Suluhu. What did you make of it?
Thanks for having me. So first, I should say Tanzania is very lucky for having Samia Suluhu, because one, when I listened to her speech, actually it is one of the best speeches I've ever heard from an East African president. Now, listening to Samia, I felt like I was listening to my Fasihi teacher because of the Swahili and all that, and she said she is teaching our MPs and senators Swahili. But all that aside, Samia Suluhu is, the way she brings out her charisma is different from the other leaders, because the way she talks, she sounds humble, and when you look at, when you listen to her, the way she puts across her points, she's very eloquent and very clear on what she wants and what she's driving at. So I would say our leaders should first learn from Samia Suluhu, because she is one leader who Tanzania is very lucky to be having.
Moses, what do you make of what Lydia had to say, that as a woman, when she sees another woman rising to that particular position, it inspires her? And for you, who's the chairman of Persons with Disabilities Lower Eastern, talk to me about that inspiration that is needed, and why, as we talk about BBI, or whether it's about the next election or leadership, how important it is to ensure that we have people representative of all groups are rising to positions of leadership, and how important that is in inspiring others.
Yeah, so first, the problem in our country has always been us and the leaders. Because when you tell me, take for instance, even our legislation has been already marginalizing people. Because when you tell me you're putting, for instance, 30% for youth, women, and persons living with disabilities. And living, so you're saying 70% is for who? For men. right? So that legislation by itself, right there, marginalizes people because youths are 75% of Kenyan population. Plus women, according to the last census, women are many than men. And plus
50
persons
something plus 50, and I'm sure Lydia knows better than me on this, but yes, yes,
Yeah.
I believe your numbers are accurate.
and plus persons with disabilities, and then you legislate and give them 30%. That lot, you give it that percent, and then leave the 70%. So I think our leaders need to relook into how they have been conducting business in the house, and also the media. The media, Lydia alluded to the media not being in forefront in championing matters women. But I'll like to differ a bit, because, you know, matters politics. When we say you're involved in politics, politics of this country, Kenya, they are brought, or rather they depend on two things. So one is popularity, and second is wealth. And that's a fact, because if you have to popularize yourself, you have to move across maybe the whole country, maybe meeting people, and that requires some considerable amount of money. So when we look at our women in Kenya, now how many are capable of that? And how many are capable of canvassing the whole country and talking to people and bringing this viral effect that the media can detect and see something to write or report on. So I don't think the media has been biased. I just think the women they want the media to, you know, there's this girl child thing that was started, I think, some years ago, and it disabled our women in a way that they felt that everything should go that way, that they should be given privileges, they should be given a upper hand than all the other people.
I don't think it's about privileges. I think it's about just catching up. You know, statistics shows that it will take women, I think, and I think a survey was done on this, 150 years to catch up in terms of access to education alone, for example. I think it's a little bit unfair to say that they want privileges when all they want is an equal share. Just like I'm sure the community you represent as the chairman of persons with disabilities also want an equal share to the national cake, whether it's access to education and so forth.
Of course, but...
Is that not what they ask you when you meet? You know, we also want those seats, we also want those tenders.
Yes.
Not privileges, Bwana Moses.
When I said privileges,
yes.
This is exactly what I meant. That they want to be sort of favored, because they feel they have that inferiority complex that was instilled in them from way back, looking at our history and our African culture and all that. So when a woman sees a man and they are doing exactly the same thing, and maybe you give them an equal chance, and maybe the man shines, or rather does it better than the woman will start complaining. And this mentality...
You have a very controversial perspective, Moses. Lydia, let me allow Lydia to respond. I'm sure she might not fully agree with you on that.
I feel so triggered. I don't even know where to start. Because he says it very right, that there is a sense of an esteem issue, especially in leadership. When you see, you know, women trying to come up for leadership, they already start at a disadvantage because they have not been taught that they can lead. Actually, studies show that when girls are growing up, it's highly unlikely that anybody in the family, the parents, the relatives, anybody told them that you can lead or go lead. But boys automatically, from the very early age, are given these opportunities even to lead in the homestead, to lead in funeral arrangements, to lead in this and the other, but it's never the same for girls. Girls are almost taught to take sort of like a backseat supportive homemaking role. And so it takes a lot of re-engineering of an individual as they grow up to begin to think, oh, even me as a woman, I can actually lead. And I think it will take now perhaps our generation, and I'm sure, I don't know whether you are a parent to girls, and you begin to see girls now becoming a lot more confident. And it starts with that confidence that I can lead, and with the examples we're seeing of people like Suluhu. And to that same point, Wahiga, the lived experience of women is so different from the lived experience of men. Women do not encounter an equal world when they wake up in the morning. It's not the same way that a man will just wake up and everything is okay. We will be in a meeting, Wahiga, even in public service, I can tell you. I will be in a boardroom and I'll make a point. And people will be like, okay, move, and then another man will make the same exact point that I made. But the man will be credited for the idea. And everybody will forget that I had actually spoken about the exact same thing. There's a cultural problem in terms of how we see women in this country, in Africa in general. And the place of women is not yet equal. And that is why we call for affirmative action. What affirmative action does is it tries to pull people up so that we can be at the same place with each other. For instance, like how we do it in Northeastern, right? Where they did have access to a lot of these services and infrastructure, and we're trying to say, okay, we'll do affirmative action for you to get into public service, we'll do affirmative action for you to be able to get more resources through the county revenue allocation, we'll do equalization fund. So it's the same thing with women. It's not that they want a favorable treatment. In fact, women have to work almost 10 times as hard to get 1% of the glory that men get for doing very little. Even in raising children, for instance, a man will just show up at the birthday for 3 minutes, or show up, you know, once a year at Parents' Day, and people are like, oh, that's such a present parent. But the mother has been washing those children every day, cleaning them, taking them to. Nobody will say good job. Everybody will just be assuming, oh, but that's your job. So I think my friend needs to read a little bit more, or get in touch with the element of affirmative action. Women do not want favors. We do not want to be more than men. We just want to be equal human beings in this society.
And of course, this was all triggered sort of this week by that state visit by Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu Hassan that ended on a high note, but of course opened the question about women in leadership, what gains have been made, but also the challenges as well. And I want to bring in Nerima Wako, who joins us virtually. She's the Executive Director of Siasa Place. Nerima, many thanks for finding time for us this morning. And I also want to begin by hearing from you your key takeaways from that state visit.
Well, for me, as already been mentioned by Lydia, good to see you. It's been mainly very joyous. I think it's something that...
Okay, Nerima, there seems to be a challenge with your sound. I'm not sure what is the issue. Can you hear me? Okay, okay, let's see. Maybe let's just try again. Okay, I think we have a challenge with that, so we will see if we can get her back on and get that. Okay, yeah, definitely have a challenge. So we're just going to have to leave her on that for now. Engineer Lazaro Kanyambok says, we are not too far from Tanzania. We have the first woman Chief Justice, at least in terms of nomination, a woman heading one of the most important arms of the government, the judiciary. And of course, you can weigh in. 22422 is the SMS line. Hashtag is Daybreak. We're going to sort out our technical challenges, and we'll be right back with so much more of that. What I must say is a very engaging discussion on the other side of this break. You're watching Daybreak. Stay with us. We'll be right back.